So, is The Undertaker retired? That's the thing that everyone is talking about at the moment after yesterday's final episode in The Undertaker The Last Ride documentary series on the WWE Network. Is The Undertaker retired? He pretty much said as much that he was. Look, this is the confusing thing. Even though the mystique to The Undertaker isn't quite there at the moment, the mystique as to whether he's actually finished or retired is still very much there after The Undertaker Last Ride episode 5. He's basically come out and said that he's content if he never gets in the ring again. He's never fully said that he's retired. It's similar to like WrestleMania 33. He's never said that he's finished. He's never come out and said, I'm done, I'm not coming back in the ring. The closest he said to that actually was at Extreme Rules after the match to Vince McMahon, where he did actually say, I'm done. And yet again, he came back at WrestleMania this past year. So he hasn't fully said that he's retired or he's not getting back in the ring or anything like that. He said that if he never gets back in the ring, he's content with that. So I think that's something to consider. But let's discuss whether or not The Undertaker is in fact retired, if he will ever return to the ring again. Now, before I get into that, I must say that The Undertaker The Last Ride documentary series is by far the best thing that WWE Network has ever produced. Now, WWE Network, whether you subscribe to it or not, they've done some pretty great things on the documentary side on that network. That's where, in my opinion, the WWE Network is really worth its value, and that's where it really thrives. Now, obviously, it's the back catalogue of everything WWE's done when it comes to Raw, SmackDown, whatever. And when NXT was on there, that was certainly worth the $9.99 alone. But the documentaries are really, really high production quality, and it's where WWE really does thrive. The WWE 24, just the original content that they put on there is really great, but the Undertaker The Last Ride documentary series, it's where WWE really takes the cake. So it's a phenomenal programming, and it's a series that's really been, over 3 years now in the making when it goes back to WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, so maybe close to 3.5 years in the making. And it always makes me wonder when I see things like this going, they've been filming this for 3 years, this has been in the works and in production for 3 years, 3.5 years. It makes you wonder what they're filming right now. I mean, with everything that's going on in WWE right now when it comes to all that chaos, it makes you wonder what they're filming right now. So that's certainly something to think about for the future. So for episode 5 was all centered around WrestleMania 36, the Boneyard match, the match that didn't happen at Raymond James Stadium due to the pandemic era that we're still living in at the moment. And I thought it was quite interesting that The Undertaker was really in two minds, and he really wasn't looking or interested to come back. I do struggle to believe that partially because they talk about when he went on the Broken Skull sessions with Steve Austin, and Steve Austin asks him, what's going on with your in-ring future? Are you done? Are you ever coming back? And he basically said, look, I'm going to write my own ending. It's going to be up to me as to when I end along those lines. So I don't think he was really thought, I'm never going to come back, because he wouldn't have said that. There was always something in his head. But AJ Styles saw that. He made a phone call and said, look, if you want to do something, it looks to me like you're thinking about doing something. If you want to do something, let's do something at WrestleMania. And they also explained how AJ Styles and The Undertaker, they're actually family friends. The Undertaker and Michelle McCool and their family have been vacationing, holidaying. We're a close friend of AJ Styles for years, so they know AJ Styles and his family very well. So not only is AJ Styles one of the best professional wrestlers in the world, and a great person to work with, and certainly was on The Undertaker's list of people that he would consider working with, they're family friends as well. So he trusts AJ Styles, which at this point in The Undertaker's career and his physical state and in-ring conditioning, it's important to be in there with someone that you trust and someone who is the best. And that is, without a doubt, AJ Styles. So AJ Styles convinced him to come back, and then they get into the story of how it was going to be a match at Raymond James Stadium for WrestleMania. It didn't happen, obviously. The Boneyard match happened. WrestleMania at the Performance Center happened. And it also then gets into how universally acclaimed that match was. For me, it's the best thing that The Undertaker's done in a very, very long time. It was the main event for night 1 of WrestleMania. For me, it's up there with one of my favorite WrestleMania main events. And I think people are going to say that's quite controversial. I don't think so. I think it was unique. I thought it was brilliant. By far, it's the best thing The Undertaker's done in a long time. And when you think back to the recent WrestleMania main events, because they've been at the end of a 5 or 6 hour show, it's just been difficult to watch anyway. And the matches they don't come across good, even if they are. That's not their fault. That's the production side of things. That's the length of the show side of things. But because it was a shorter show, because it was spread across 2 nights, because it was a cinematic style, it was a great main event. And like I said, the best thing that The Undertaker certainly has done in a very, very long time. So it was the perfect ending if it was an ending for The Undertaker. He rode off into the darkness, having vanquished his foe, AJ Styles. AJ Styles had mocked The Undertaker's family. His wife said personal things about The Undertaker and his family and his wife, and really stripped away the mystique of The Undertaker. And The Undertaker almost did a bit of a roll call on all of his characters that he's portrayed throughout his career. He brought a bit of The Undertaker out, he brought a bit of the American Badass out, and he brought Mark Calloway out, used the unholy trinity as he called it, and merged it all into one for that one final cinematic spectacular match that we saw at WrestleMania in the Boneyard match. So it was perfect, and the ending shot of that match and of the first night of WrestleMania was The Undertaker on his motorcycle riding off into the darkness of the night. There was no need for redemption because the match was great. His last two matches, The Undertaker's last two matches, were great. You had, obviously, the Boneyard match, which was critically acclaimed, but prior to that, you had The Undertaker and Roman Reigns versus Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre at Extreme Rules in 2019 in Philadelphia. That match was phenomenal. It was really, really good. A lot better than I think a lot of people were expecting it to be honest. And I think that helped because it was at the start of the show, so the crowd was hot. Philadelphia crowd, always a great crowd. And The Undertaker had something to prove in that match. It was the match after the Goldberg match in Saudi Arabia at Super Showdown, where the less said about that, to be honest, the better, because it was quite frankly, a disaster, and was inches away from being a disaster for The Undertaker, physically and personally. So there was no need for redemption. The Undertaker's last two matches were great, and it was a perfect ending for The Undertaker, for the Undertaker character. You think about how he debuted at Survivor Series in 1990. He walks out of the darkness with Brother Love, and the ending at WrestleMania 36, he rides off back into the darkness. I mean, that's poetry, isn't it, really, when it comes to the Undertaker character? That is emotional, it's great storytelling, it's fitting, and it just works. And I think The Undertaker was reflecting on that during this episode and saying, you don't get the opportunity to have that kind of ending that often. You don't have the opportunity for it to work that well. And at this stage in his career, is he ever going to have a match like the Boneyard match again that's going to be that critically acclaimed? I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think so. If it's a regular match in the ring, regardless of how good it is and who it is against, I'm not sure it's ever going to be as good as the Boneyard match. Is it going to be a main event of a WrestleMania? Is it going to be just that perfect from a storytelling point of view? I don't think so. However, this is where the discussions whether The Undertaker is or is not going to come back really do start to flare up. Now he says, quote, "If Vince was in a pinch, would I come back? Only time would tell there." He also says, quote, "In case of emergency, break glass, pull out The Undertaker, I would have to consider that. Never say never," end quote. He also says, "At this point in my life and my career, I have no desire to get back into the ring," end quote. So there's a lot to break down there, isn't there? To me, like I said at the start of the video, he's never said that he has retired. But have you heard the words retirement there? No, I have not. He's never outwardly say, "I'm never stepping foot in the ring again." He's never said another match isn't going to happen again. There's always going to be that part in the back of his head. Triple H talks in the documentary about chasing the dragon. I don't think The Undertaker has finished chasing that dragon just yet. And you can tell that by his words alone. He's spoken about in many of the episodes in this series about his loyalty to Vince McMahon. He will do anything for Vince McMahon. One of his son's middle names is Vince or Vincent, which shows the dedication, the loyalty, the respect that he has for Vince McMahon. He's spoken about Vince being a father figure to him. He will do anything for Vince McMahon and the WWE. So when he says, "If Vince was a pinch, would I come back? Only time would tell there," that basically means yes. In case of emergency, break glass, pull out The Undertaker. He said that about the WrestleMania 34 match with John Cena. In case of emergency, if Vince needed me, pull out The Undertaker. I'm pretty sure at next year's WrestleMania, or maybe even before then, Vince McMahon could need The Undertaker. We talk about declining ratings. We talk about WWE needing to please networks and needing to please sponsors and needing to please investors, The Undertaker's pretty quick to pleasing people when it comes to that. The Undertaker's been on pretty much every Saudi Arabia show because it pleases the Saudi royal family and the Saudi government that pays WWE a substantial amount of money to put on that show in the first place. So I think that glass may be broken sooner rather than later when it comes to the WWE and pulling out The Undertaker. And I don't think The Undertaker feels that he can say no just yet. As he says, he will have to consider that, never say never. Those Saudi shows, they pay very, very well. And let's be honest, the more The Undertaker says no, he will get paid even more and more. The Undertaker signed, I think it was a 15-year contract back in 2019 when that whole, is he going to StarCast, all of that stuff happened, making outside appearances, 15-year contract. Now, I'm not going to say in 15 years' time, The Undertaker's 55 now, 56. I'm not going to say when The Undertaker's 70, he's still going to be stepping into the ring, as he said, making his way to the ring from Death Valley using a walker. However, 15 years, I still think The Undertaker, even in his mind, if he won't admit it, or if Vince McMahon won't admit it, has a couple more matches left into him. And he even kind of says as much, because after he says, I have no desire to get back in the ring once again, immediately, the immediate thing he says straight after that is, quote, I got a pit in my stomach right now. Which says to me, there isn't the level of content there that I think should be when it comes to retirement. There isn't the... You think of Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels has always said when WrestleMania 26 happened in his final retirement match, ironically against The Undertaker, that there was this level of peace there. Once it was done, he went, you know what? This weight has been lifted. I'm done. And Stone Cold Steve Austin said the same. He said that in his final match against The Rock at WrestleMania 19, going into the match, there was so much pressure. Am I going to do it? Wow. Am I going to get hurt? Am I going to be paralyzed? All of this stuff. And Steve Austin said once the referee hit the mat for the 3 count, suddenly he just felt peace. He just felt this level of, I'm content, I'm done. And I don't get that sense from The Undertaker. When he says, I've got a pit in my stomach right now, there's part of me that thinks, is he really willing to give it up right now? Is he really willing to let go? He already talks, he says, I already miss you, when he's talking about the fans. And I think when he's talking about the WWE superstars and the employees and all of that. Now, he does say it's time, the cowboy really rides away. I just don't know whether he really means it. Now, he does talk about, and it's really heartbreaking, this part of the episode, he talks about the death of his brother, which actually happened the day prior to shooting the Boneyard match. His brother died of a heart attack, and he had to, the following day, shoot this Boneyard match in what was a makeshift cemetery, and that was heartbreaking. And he spoke about his family and his siblings and his mother, who is still alive. And Michelle McCall spoke about the loss of her nephew in a car accident. And The Undertaker also reflected on the death of Kobe Bryant. And I thought all of that was very poignant when it came to, is The Undertaker retired? Is The Undertaker going to step away from the ring finally? And it's great for me to see that from him. Now, that is the bit where I do think, well, maybe he is serious about really stepping away this time. He said, quote, you never know when your number is going to be called. And that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I commend The Undertaker for discussing that and sharing that and thinking that when it comes to his well-being and his career. He speaks about wanting or needing to spend more time with his family, his wife, his children. And I do think that is considerably as The Undertaker is getting on in age, and after the match with, say, Goldberg at Super Showdown, where it was inches from catastrophe, he has to certainly think about that. So it is a difficult one. I will say this, I do truly believe that The Undertaker at this period of time absolutely means what he says. And I absolutely believe that The Undertaker at this moment in time considers himself to be retired and to be done. And the reason I say that, and the reason I believe that The Undertaker thinks that he's retired, is because it's currently June. And that last episode was filmed in the last few weeks. And he's living in a post-WrestleMania world right now. However, if this documentary has taught us anything, it's that The Undertaker lives in this cyclical world and cyclical pattern. And it goes by kind of like this. He has the WrestleMania match in April. That's followed by the I'm done, I'm retired, I'm content, I'm not going to go in the ring again, I'm finished. Then fast forward to December, January, February, then the questions start going on in his head. Maybe I have one more match left in me. Then he speaks to Vince. Vince says, well, why didn't you want to do this? Or somebody calls him, like an AJ Styles, and he goes, well, I would, that would be great. Speaks to his wife, speaks to his family, and then it's back into training for WrestleMania. That happened for WrestleMania 33. It happened for WrestleMania 34 against John Cena. And then when it didn't happen for WrestleMania 35, remember, he wasn't on the card for WrestleMania 35. They made the decision, I need to step away. I don't have any more WrestleManias in me. I need to let someone else have a chance. He was backstage for WrestleMania 35 in New Jersey, and he was itching. He felt like, I need to be out there. I should be out there, which then led to the Undertaker versus Goldberg match at Super Showdown, and led to the Undertaker Roman Reigns versus Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre match at Extreme Rules. So I do believe that the Undertaker means and feels that he is truly retired right now. I mean, he's doing more media appearances and interviews and all of that stuff more than he ever has before. The peek behind the curtain is absolutely there. I mean, the curtain at this point is fully pulled back, let's be honest. But come December or January, those wheels will be turning without a shadow of a doubt in his mind and his head. And if Vince wants a name and the Undertaker wants a moment in a stadium, it's absolutely there. You have to think about the circumstances of WrestleMania this year and the world that we're currently living in. He said as much on the documentary. This last WrestleMania wasn't what he expected, and it certainly isn't what the WWE and a lot of fans expected. Of course, I think the cinematic match between AJ Styles and The Undertaker is the best thing The Undertaker has done in years. I think it was the perfect send-off. I think it's fitting for The Undertaker character. And I think that's what The Undertaker has been looking for. He's spoken about it in the documentary a lot. He's looking for that moment, that finality, that I'm done. That's the perfect ending. And I think he did find it with the Boneyard match. But let's be honest. Whilst it was fantastic, whilst it was met with universal acclaim, whilst it's the best thing and the best match he has had in years, it is not a stadium filled with 80, 90 or 100,000 people giving you a standing ovation at the end of a 25, 30-minute match. And I think whether or not WrestleMania does take place from SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California next year, or we get back to a place where we can have a stadium or an arena filled with people, I just think that law of having one more match in a sold-out arena or in a sold-out stadium, I think that will just be too much for The Undertaker. I think this documentary showed that he does have those nagging questions in the back of his mind, and if it's there, he has to address it. And I think the sold-out arena or the sold-out stadium will just be too much for him. So, in my opinion, I do think there's one more match left in The Undertaker's career. That's just me, though. The issue is, and this is the problem when it comes to if he does come back for one more match, like The Undertaker said, he doesn't want to go out on a bad match. He doesn't want to go out on a stinker. Look what happened when his matches sucked. He had to redeem himself. The match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't up to his standards. It wasn't what The Undertaker wanted his last match to be, so he had to come back against John Cena. He had a great performance against John Cena at WrestleMania 34, but the match was so short that afterwards he was like, that isn't it. I could have done more. I needed to do more. That was too short. So then you had the match against Triple H at Super Showdown. You had the DX match at Crown Jewel. Those weren't good. So he had to redeem himself after that, which got him to the match against Goldberg, which that really wasn't good. But then he did finally do good. He had the match at Extreme Rules, and that was followed by the Boneyard match. Both matches were universally acclaimed. So that was the perfect ending. If he does come back, what if they do suck? What happens then? We're back in the same story again. We have another 3 years where it's The Undertaker, the second last ride. Or this time it really is the last ride, whatever they're going to call it. Now, The Undertaker never had anything to prove. He never has had anything to prove. But now, I think in his mind, he really doesn't have anything to prove because his last two matches were great. Now, like The Undertaker said, maybe they were too great. I don't know. I do think there is one more match left. I think that match could be against someone like The Fiend. comes back and puts the Fiend over at WrestleMania. He's the most Undertaker-like character of the modern generation. He has that similar feel without a doubt, and the Undertaker in his last match passing the dark torch to the Fiend could really be poetic production and poetic storytelling. But again, I worry about it. I worry about if the match is good, if the match is meh, or if it's bad, he won't go out then. So it's a very, very fine line, and I do think The Undertaker should quit while he's ahead. But I just think there's one left. I really do think there's one left. But of course, this is just one man's opinion. What is your opinion? What did you think of the Undertaker The Last Ride documentary series? Is it the best thing WWE Network has produced? What did you think of episode 5? What did you think of the Boneyard match? And most importantly, is The Undertaker retired, or will we see one more match from the dead man himself? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video. Click the thumbs up there. You can subscribe by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. They're on the screen right now, at 365Wrestle on Twitter and at WrestleNews365 on Facebook or Instagram. So be sure to give us a follow on there. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.